is the most complex object that Mother Nature has created in the known universe. You have to go at least 24 trillion miles to the nearest star to find a planet that may have life and may have intelligence. And yet our brain only consumes about 20-30 watts of power, and yet it performs calculations better than any large supercomputer. So it's a mystery. How is the brain wired up? And if we can figure that out, what can we do with it to enhance our mental capabilities?
Tendon. /tendon/. Learn to pronounce.
Noun. 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 Tendon. /tendon/. Learn to pronounce. Noun. Noun, tendon, plural noun, tendons. A flexible but inelastic cord of strong fibrous collagen tissue attaching a muscle to a bone. The hamstring of a quadruped. Origin. Late Middle English, from French or medieval Latin tendo, and, translating Greek tendon sinew, from tiny and to stretch. The abdominal muscles are located between the ribs and the pelvis on the front of the body. The abdominal muscles support the trunk, allow movement and hold organs in place by regulating internal abdominal pressure. Abdominal muscle, any of the muscles of the anterolateral walls of the abdominal cavity, composed of 3 flat muscular sheets from without inward, external oblique, internal oblique, and transverse abdominis, supplemented in front on each side of the midline by rectus abdominis.
When you look at the brain and all the parts of the brain, they don't seem to make any sense at all. The visual part of the brain is way in the back, for example. Why is the brain constructed the way it is? Is this nothing but an accident of evolution? Well, one way to look at it is through evolution. That is, the back of the brain is the so-called reptilian brain, the most ancient, primitive part of the brain that governs balance, territoriality, mating. And so the very back of the brain is also the kind of brain that you find in reptiles. Now, when I was a child, I would go to the science museum and look at the snakes sometimes, and they would stare back at me. And I would wonder, what are they thinking about? Well, I think now I know. What they're thinking about was, is this person lunch? Then we have the center part of the brain going forward, and that's the so-called monkey brain, the mammalian brain, the brain of emotions, the brain of social hierarchies. And then finally, the front of the brain is the human brain, especially the prefrontal cortex. This is where rational thinking is. And when you ask yourself a question, where am I anyway? The answer is right behind your forehead,